Nintendo PowerZone unboxing. It's your boy, Nice1983, and guys, today we have the Edge Joystick by Emio. This controller is straight up designed to look like the old school NES Advantage from back in the day, and I was excited to do this review. When this was first announced, I was super excited because I was like, oh snap. The NES Advantage was one of the few NES peripherals I did not own, and it was one I always wanted because I always wanted to replicate that arcade feeling in the house. But here I am, I'm an adult now, was able to pick this up at GameStop. It retails at $24.99. But before we go ahead and even take a look at this box, I want to talk about the recall that this product got back in November. So basically, Emio decided that they wanted to beat all the other competitors to market with this style of controller, and they basically did all the schematics based on the Wii's structure. This is a problem because the Wii and the NES Classic are not really compatible. It's all different. So Emio went ahead, they recalled the product, and it's back on store shelves now. It's been about a month. The problem is that you have to imagine that they burned any goodwill they may have had by releasing a faulty controller. Now, I get it, it's not their fault, but it is their fault. You really want to be the first to market. It's always about timing, and you always want to get the timing right on a product. Unfortunately, Nintendo wasn't very forthcoming with the NES Classic, so nobody knew how this was going to work, and it blew up in Emio's face. Now, they have gone to release an adapter that is supposed to rectify the problem. Now, here's the thing. I picked this up at my local GameStop, and I'm not actually sure if this version that I have comes with that adapter or if I'm going to have to order it online. I know Emio is offering it for free, but I mean, it's bad when a GameStop employee can't tell you whether or not they've actually resolved the issue and shipped them back out, or if they've shipped out the older models that were, defective, and I'm gonna have to order the piece separately. But we're gonna get down to that when we do the unboxing. I'm telling you guys right now, I'm a little skeptical, so let's just go ahead and take a look at the box, yeah? So the box is actually pretty nice. You can see that they went through a lot of effort to try to recreate the design of the original NES Advantage box. Take a look at it right here. Flashing it on the screen just for you guys to see. It is an awesome looking box. So in the left hand corner of the box you have the Edge Joystick, Games Advantage Joystick. Over to the right it says for NES Classic and Wii U. Now that was the problem though. We know that this was what caused the problem, building this based on the Wii U. Now, this is what is the kicker. This is why I figured this might be a must-have product. The NES Classic comes with a 2-foot controller. That is not good. That is a hindrance to the NES Classic. I love the NES Classic. I've had a lot of fun playing it so far, and I will say that playing with such a small controller cable has become an issue. I do usually play games sitting up close, but not normally that close, especially since the TV that I'm currently playing my NES Classic on is 60 inches. That makes life really hard. So the 9-foot cable, appreciate that. Alright, right under that, we have a bonus book, which is a cheat code book, which, yeah, if you're going to play some of these retro games, you already know you got to get down on some of these codes. So guys, take a look. You see that great picture of the Edge Joystick? It really does look a lot like the NES Advantage. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and turn the box over to the side and take a look there, yeah? So we got this box turned over. Take a look. Very nice here on the side. You got this great image of the Edge Joystick. Looks really clean and lets you know what the thing is going to look like done in a pretty awesome art style. So right above that, you have the Edge Joystick, Gamer's Advantage Joystick. Right under that's in French. Here on the black portion of the box it says, enjoy the arcade experience at home. The Edge Joystick is compatible with the NES Classic Edition. Again, we're not 100% sure if the version I got is one of the post-recalls. So, fingers are crossed. Really hoping it is. Let's go ahead and turn this box over one more time so we can see the back of the box. Alright guys, so we're looking at the back of the box and it's kind of clean. I love the just hand-drawn joystick right there in the center. So it says it's again for the NES Classic Edition and Wii U. Over to the right side of the top corner of the box you have the Edge Joystick, Games Advantage Joystick. Moving back over to the left, it does let you know that it has a 9-foot cable. So here on the black portion on the bottom section of the box, here are the things that this controller has. It has a joystick, Turbo B control, Turbo A control, Turbo B on off, Turbo A on off. It has a B button, an A button, select start buttons, slow button, and a B plus A button. There's a lot of functionality in this joystick. It is truly very much like the old NES Advantage joystick. So I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on this thing once it's unboxed and playing with it and seeing how well it functions. Let's go ahead and move over to the other side of the box and then we'll get this thing unboxed, okay guys? Alright guys, we're on the last side of the box. This is where it breaks down the functionality of each function on the controller. So it has your turbo buttons, shows you a picture of a spaceship with a turbo on, and over to the right it has it with the turbo off. The description reads, the turbo functions allow repeated button presses by holding the turbo button. The turbo knobs control the speed of the buttons, and the on-off buttons activate the turbo function on A and or B buttons. Right under that you have your joysticks. The joystick is a digital 8-way input with a circular gate. You can switch between the classic ball top joystick and the bat top joystick, both included. The joystick brings the arcade feel to your home and works especially well with games that use 8 directions. Right under that we have the micro switch. A and B micro switches with high-end and long-lasting material. These buttons are the best choice for any fighting game enthusiast. Funny because there's no fighting games on the NES Classic. Probably works better with Street Fighter on the Wii U. And right under all this is the slow B plus A. The top 2 buttons function as select and start. The bottom 2 are the slow and B plus A buttons. The slow button will give an edge over those using a normal controller by making the game go in slow motion. The B plus A button makes it easier to execute certain moves requiring the player to press both the A and B button. It makes the B plus A moves easier to execute with more accuracy. So there's all the functionality that the controller is supposed to have right there on the side of the box. Alright guys, I really gotta get this thing unboxed because I want to touch it, I want to feel it, I want to let you know what I think about it, so don't go anywhere. Okay guys, so it's out of the box, and as you can see, there's a lot of stuff that comes in this box. So you can see the unit itself, which is very clean, very retro looking. It actually looks pretty damn perfect when you compare it to an NES Advantage. I'm going to go ahead and we'll just show you that later during comparison time. Let's keep on looking at the device itself. You can see the cable is very long. It's got it all bunched up, but there is a gray little adapter on the cable, which is the adapter that makes it functional with the NES Classic. So I am very happy to see that I did get a post-recall model with the fix. I would have gone ahead and just ordered the piece separately had it not come with this unit, but don't have to do that now. Very happy. It's a simple fix. I just wish Emio had just waited, maybe a month after the release of the NES Classic, at least gotten their hands on the specs for the system before they actually released the unit and didn't have to go through this recall, because if this thing works as advertised with the fix, then they caused themselves a lot of heartache for nothing. Alright guys, just moving on, you can see there is another handle for the joystick. Basically it's customizable to, how you want to play it. I mean, I actually prefer the ball top joystick. Feels much more retro that way, and it's a little bit more, attention to detail when it comes to looking like a traditional NES Advantage, so gonna go ahead and use that. Moving on, you do have a cheat code book. Guys, you already know, with the NES Classic, you're going to be doing a lot of retro gaming, and a lot of those old retro games have cheats. That's something I kind of miss nowadays. We do not have cheat codes in video games now, except for your Grand Theft Auto games, but I mean, what are you going to do? I just miss those older times. I guess I'm just an old fart, guys. Oh, and right under the cheat code manual, you can see that I do have the user manual out there for display. So you actually get a pretty good amount of stuff in the package. So that's very cool. Let's go ahead and take a deeper look at the unit itself, shall we? Alright guys, taking a closer look at the unit itself, it just looks so perfectly on point. It looks just like an NES Advantage. There are a few slight differences because there are some buttons functionalities that were changed simply because they just do not have the same functions on the NES Classic, so they no longer need to be on the Edge joystick. the joystick part of the device itself is actually a little clicky. So you do get 360-degree rotation on it, but it just feels very clicky. It's a little bit weird, but it does actually take away some of that traditional arcade feel that the unit is going for, but it's not a deal breaker. I mean, considering that you're using it for an NES, and a lot of those games don't actually support like that kind of 360-degree rotation anyway, so it's not truly a hindrance. Your B and A buttons feel really good. They're really well made, and they just feel perfect. I will say this, I have used the device with my NES Classic, and I loaded up Punch-Out immediately, simply because Punch-Out was the reason I even invested in the Edge joystick, because I wanted to play Punch-Out the way I remember playing it in arcades. Now, I do have a few issues. I did feel like there was a little bit of lag coming out of the joystick. It didn't feel quite right. I actually had more success using the controller that came with the NES Classic itself. Now, I did find better use for this in games like Gradius. That's where this controller functioned much better. Going back to the device itself though, you do have your turbo knobs at the top of the device. They work really well. I don't like to use these turbo functions. I kind of like to play these games the way they're meant to be played, no cheat. But I did go ahead and try out all the functionality just to see how it works. The one that annoys me the most, by the way guys, is the slow function, which basically just pauses the screen repeatedly. And some of the games on the NES Classic have the pause chime, that da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na. So imagine hearing that over repeatedly while you're using the slow function. It is kind of really annoying. And now imagine that you have the NES Classic hooked up to a 60-inch TV plus a soundbar, which is the current setup that I have, and it drives me insane to hear that tone with the soundbar over and over. I actually had to turn that junk on mute just so I could go ahead and use the slow function. I had to mute my TV. Not cool. That being said, that's not really the controller's fault. That's more of the game developers adding that chime in there. The controller does feel really good though, and it looks really good. I actually really like the way the controller feels. It's about the right size. It's not too big and it's not too small. As far as weight is concerned, it's actually pretty light. It's not as heavy as the original NES Advantage joystick. So I guess that's a plus or a minus, just depending on how you're using it. If it's in your lap, it might be a little too light, but if you have it set up on a table while you're gaming, yeah, you're straight. It's just a really great feeling device. It feels good and it works really well. It doesn't work as well for the game that I wanted it to work well with, Punch-Out, but for games like Gradius, this controller works pretty damn good. So yeah, I'm really actually enjoying the functionality of the controller. It feels really good. Alright guys, let's go ahead and let's move on to the comparison so we can see what it looks like stacked up against an original NES Advantage. Alright guys, let's take a look at these units so that you can see what they both look like side by side. There we have the NES Advantage right there on the bottom right corner of the screen, sitting next to the Emio NES Advantage joystick. They are really similar. There's not a lot of differences between the two. Now some of the buttons are a little bit different, but that's just based on functionality. The NES Classic has some different functionality than the original NES had, so the only changes here are pretty functional, so it's not a big deal. It's not a deal breaker. You do see that Emio went above and beyond to truly replicate this retro design on the NES Advantage. I give Emio props for making this device look as close to the original as possible. You know, they made a few changes here and there. The buttons are slightly different, but it's all good. It looks great, and I actually really like having it. And I kind of want to go ahead and buy an NES Advantage just so I could truly have them side by side and just truly compare the way they feel. That's the one thing I don't have, guys. I never, like I said in the beginning of the video, I never had an NES Advantage. So comparing the feel is a little bit harder, but as far as the look, I can say that Emio did a perfect job of getting this look on point. So let's go ahead and move into score time, guys. Like I said, this thing looks so damn perfect that it pleases me. I'm very happy to have this in my collection just because it looks so fly. It looks like an NES Advantage. For design, I give this thing a 10. Moving on to the functionality though, that's where I have a little bit of issues. On games like Punch-Out, I do notice lag, and I can't play that game to the best of my ability. It actually works better for me to use the NES controller that came with the NES Classic, which is a damn shame because I find that controller's cable is just so short that it's really hard to use. I have to sit pretty close to a 60-inch TV. That kind of takes me out of the experience. It takes me out of the game to sit that close. So knowing that I can't use this controller for Punch-Out kind of blows, especially since Punch-Out was the reason I bought this controller. I wanted to play Punch-Out that way, and I really can't. But for other games like Gradius and Super C, I find this controller works pretty damn good. No lag, no issues. It's really weird to see it work that well in one game and so poorly on another. So guys, I'm gonna have to give it a 6 as far as its functionality is concerned, because I feel like it only works about 60% of the time because it's not working with the game that I really want it to work with. So a 10 on appearance, a 6 on functionality. Guys, this thing is going to get a solid 8 out of 10. It's a really good score, and that's considering that Emio had to go ahead and release a fix for this. I can only imagine the people that feel burned by Emio, since they may have bought it before they released that adapter so that this thing could work with an NES Classic. So I don't blame anybody who doesn't trust my review score, because they probably feel really burned by the whole not working with the NES Classic. So guys, I'm giving it an 8. It gets our official Nintendo PowerZone seal of approval. But if you don't believe me, I don't blame you, because this thing was released incomplete. Alright guys, that's gonna be it for this episode of Nintendo PowerZone Unboxing. But before I let you go, gotta hit you up with these social media links. You can hit me up on Twitter at nice193. You can email me at nice193@gmail.com. You can hit me up on Facebook, facebook.com/Nintendo PowerZone, all one word. If you're a fan of the Nintendo PowerZone podcast, you can download new episodes on iTunes and Google Play Music, and you can stream new episodes on Stitcher Radio. Or if you like the live version of the show, you can catch us every 29th of the month on youtube.com/user/thearticle, THEARTICLE. And guys, don't forget, every Wednesday at 3 p.m. here on the YouTube page, you can watch a brand new unboxing video. That's going to be it for this episode, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Watch out for Amiibo Hunters on the prowl. Deuces.